We are starting the Roundtable business cooperation for the effective development of the North and the Arctic. I'm greeting you and congratulating you on the beginning of our work. Well, now I can see Timo, Anders, Naryanmar guys, I can see you, Haldur. Today we would like to discuss how we can construct business cooperation within the framework of the Northern Forum. But I would like to highlight that unfortunately Mr. Gudjonsson, the chair of the Arctic Economic Council, told that he would not be able to attend the session because he has some extraordinary meeting, but he promised to attend our future meetings and events. So I suggested that our friend from Iceland, Mr. Johansson, that we should discuss it with Heider and Arctic Economic Council, that maybe this October or this November we could hold a special session with them to discuss how we will be able to involve regional business at a global international level and at the level of the Arctic Economic Council. We know that this is an inter-country agency where they have countries and large companies and corporations. But the representatives of small and medium businesses are not accepted there as members. And that is why today we have decided all together discuss what we can do in this direction. In each region there is a chamber of commerce and other associations of businessmen. And there are also very active people who can lead their colleagues. And if we revitalize a network of the chambers of commerce of the Northern Forum that was quite successful, and Mr. Rautajoki was the chair of this network. I think that with our combined efforts, a so-called Association of Chambers of Commerce of the Northern Forum could become a good partner for the Arctic Economic Council. Now we are all in very complicated conditions in this pandemic situation, and our frontiers and borders are closed. We cannot visit each other yet, but I hope that this is not forever. And of course this pandemic has hit primarily the small and medium businesses, especially those who engage in tourism. There are almost no tourists. Timo can confirm that in Lapland they don't know what to do about Christmas holidays. Here in December we usually hold a very large-scale festival. Winter starts in Yakutia, when we receive a lot of tourists to see Russian Ded Moroz and Saha Chizhan. We are facing a lot of problems, and within the second Northern Sustainable Development Forum there are hot discussions what can be done in this post-COVID world after the pandemic is over. Today the large-scale event of NIAR organization took place, which was also dedicated to this topic. And I think that altogether we will be able to find some solutions to this situation and to help each other and establish effective cooperation even in the conditions of the pandemic. And Unfortunately, we are not together here in person, and we cannot discuss these issues sitting close to each other, so that after the meeting we could go all together to a restaurant, for example, and to continue some informal discussions. But unfortunately, that's the way it is. But still, this online format also has some benefits, because it allows us to have a new look at some information technologies, at the benefits of information technologies, and also to learn to communicate via the displays of our computers, and to establish a constructive dialogue. When we are all together in one auditorium, we can feel the reaction of a person, but I think that even through a screen you can learn to work effectively. But anyway, today we have to discuss the ideas that you have come up with and that you would like to share with us, and at the end we have to summarize. I believe that this roundtable is the first one in a number of other events. We wouldn't like it to be just a single-time event. We would like to stay in a permanent communication with you, and maybe in the coming months, starting from October, we could hold some special purpose webinars or roundtables on the proposals from you and your colleagues, so that we had some active communication. This is the benefit of information technologies. Staying in our offices and even staying in our flats, we can meet at any time that is convenient for everybody, and to have discussions and to launch some specific projects. I'm very happy that today in our agenda we have some concrete specific projects that have to be or can be endorsed by the Northern Forum or other organizations to improve the activities of our businessmen. So today in our roundtable, the participants are as follows: Timo Rautajoki, President of Lapland Chamber of Commerce, Finland; Haldur Johansson, Director of the Arctic Portal, Akureyri, Iceland; Zoya Sidalisheva, Director General of My Business Center of Yakutia; Nikolai Stepanov, Executive Director of the Union of Collectors, Processors and Exporters of Mammoth Fauna, and Vice President of Sakha Chamber of Commerce; Anders Oskal, Secretary General of World Reindeer Herders Association and Executive Director of the International Institute on Reindeer Husbandry. Then later we also have Mr. Krivorotov, representing Moscow State Institute of International Relations of the Russian Foreign Affairs Ministry; Mr. Stockwick, Managing Director, Center of High North Logistics, Nord University Business School; Mr. Sergei Popov, the CEO of Center for Expert Support and Center of Business Development of Nenets Autonomous Okrug; and Mr. Timoshin, the founder of Polar Reindeer Limited Liability Company. So the discussion is going to be very intense, starting from the Northern Sea route and coming to the production of some dry feed. But this is our like a testing ground of the Northern Forum after quite a long break, and I hope that in the future we will establish good conversation. I have to inform you that we have a very tight schedule. We only have 2 hours to listen to everybody and also to have some time for discussions and to summarize. So you can speak for 10 minutes, not more. As a moderator, excuse me, But I will remind you that you have 1 minute left, and after that minute I will ask you to stop. Do you agree? Okay, then it is my pleasure to give the floor to Mr. Timo Rautajoki, President of Lapland Chamber of Commerce. Thank you. We are starting our work.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. It's morning here, or we are moving here in Rovaniemi from morning to the noon. So sun is shining and everything is beautiful. The weather, but as you told in your opening remarks, Vladimir, this coronavirus pandemic has been changing this world and closed all the borders, and we don't know what the future is going to be like. So it's very important that we the best way, of course, as you told, is that we could meet face to face, but this is also very important that we share our opinions and visions about the future. I'm speaking about interaction of chambers of commerce within the Northern Forum, and this is not a new thing. There has been cooperation, and I think that more than 25 years ago everything started. And my region, Lapland, has been very active in this, and also Lapland Chamber of Commerce. International cooperation is natural for us. We are in the Arctic region, and we are different from the other Finnish chambers because we have borders with Sweden, Norway, and Russian Federation. So we have always been very international here. So we started this chamber cooperation within the Barents region. Started 1996 Euro-Arctic Chamber of Commerce, and it was very active in the beginning, and now today it's not so active anymore, but it exists. So one of the main issues in chamber cooperation is that we have joint agenda, and we are meeting each other, and not only sending emails. Northern Forum has the first Northern Business Conference was organized here in Rovaniemi in 1999, and that was a great event. We had speakers from around the world, and Walter J. Hickel, the founder of this Northern Forum, was also in that conference. And after that, we had also within Northern Forum about 15 years ago business meetings, but they were not so popular at that time. But we were very active because our former governor Hannele Pokka was the chair of this organization, so business was included to all that. Then there is on the background, there is the ongoing cooperation between Finnish and Russian chambers of commerce. We have had meetings. First meeting was in 1999, and the last meeting was almost 1 year ago in Helsinki, and next meeting should be in Kaliningrad in 2020. So there are a lot of possibilities to have this cooperation, and I think that, as Vladimir told, this Zoom meetings or Teams or whatever they are is possibility to activate all this kind of actions if we are ready. So how this regional cooperation within the chambers and cooperation with the Northern Forum could go. So I think that we have all the same challenges now, this pandemic and what happens after that. Then there is climate change. That's a big issue. And Arctic, it was very popular Arctic business. Everybody told about that. We had also very big goals, but because of this pandemic, it's a little bit silent at the moment. But the most important thing is to remember that the Arctic region is not uninhabited wilderness, but an area whose inhabitants need opportunities to maintain and further develop their own well-being. Securing this is a key prerequisite for economic prosperity and growth, and it should be also the backbone of this cooperation. So, what kind of how could we organize this chamber cooperation? Well, fact number one, it can't be established here today, so there must be some work to be done. There could be a task force, not a big one, but the forum of representatives from Northern Forum administration and the different chambers, and also we should include business associations to this cooperation. So and talk about business plan or action plan. And I think that we have three options how we could organize this cooperation. The first one is that it could be form of all chambers of commerce from the member regions, and it would be open for all, and it should be very loose organization, like to meet at least when the assembly of Northern Forum is, so maybe also in the meetings of other meetings that Northern Forum organizes. Then it could be a working group, smaller working group with representatives from chambers of commerce and industry and different business associations. And number three is, I call it a model of the North Calotte Council that has been working 50 years here in European High North between northern Norway, Norrbotten, Sweden, and Lapland. So it consists of the representatives of chambers of commerce and business associations and regional leaders. This has been very fruitful combination because to hear what the regions are planning and what the business is doing and what could be done together is one important form of that. But I think its third model is to have this cooperation group work as advisory board to Northern Forum in business cooperation, and governors, chamber presidents, and directors could meet and discuss about the future of the regions, regional development. That's important for chambers of commerce and also the well-being of small and medium-sized enterprises. And it's quite easy. We need decision. We need active people. We need a small working group, but we don't need no special administration or organization. Like it's a pity that we don't have the chair of Arctic Economic Council in this meeting. they have a head office in Tromsø and organization. We don't have. All organizations have it. Northern Forum has organization. Regional administration has organization, and chambers of commerce have organizations. And what could we talk to meet is important. Then, if we want to have project initiatives, we are one of the members of a European Union Chamber organization, Eurochambers, so European Union funding, all kind of funding. That is possible if we decided so, and I hope that this roundtable, this is, by the way, the second roundtable I'm participating this year with Northern Forum, so we should continue, but let's hear your opinions. I'm stopping here, Vladimir. I hope that I didn't talk too much. So thank you all, and now I listen to your comments, and if you have questions, I'm ready to answer. Thank you very much.
Да, спасибо большое, Тимо.
Thank you very much, Timo.
Точно соблюдаете регламент. Спасибо за это большое.
You are exactly within your time frame.
Вопросы и обсуждения, наверное, в конце
But
проведем.
I think that all our questions and discussions will be in the end. Or what do you think? Or shall we ask questions now?
Мне кажется, что вот
I think
очень
that
хорошую мысль
a
сказали, вот
very
три
good
варианта
idea about these three options for business cooperation within the Northern Forum, and the idea of establishing a small working group. I think it seems the most easiest to implement, and I think that our colleagues will agree with me. In Tromsø, this small town in North Norway, has accumulated the secretariats of almost all large-scale international organizations, starting from the Arctic Council, then Indigenous Secretariat, and the Secretariat of the Arctic Economic Council. That is why I'm very happy that Mr. Anders Oskal from Tromsø has joined us today, and I think that in his presentation we will hear some very specific proposals. If you don't mind, let's listen to each other first and then have discussions and questions and answers. Do you agree with that?
Согласна. Хорошо.
Okay.
That's okay. For me, we're very interested to listen to all presentations.
Хорошо, спасибо.
Okay, thank you, Timo. So now I would like to give the floor to the director of the Arctic Portal, Mr. Haldur Johansson.
Please, Haldur.
Sorry, Vladimir. I think Anders has very strict time concerns, so if it's okay with you, let's take him next, and then I can wait.
Мне кажется, Андерсон он сейчас торопится, поэтому, может быть, ему сейчас дадим слово.
Окей. Тоже нет проблем. Мы очень гибко.
Okay, no problem. We have to be very flexible to listen to everybody and to share opinions. Then if nobody minds, then I would like to give the floor to Anders Oskal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the invitation. I'm sorry, I have, since there were some late changes in the time setup for this session, I have 20 university students coming into my office in 20 minutes or so. So I appreciate the flexibility, and this is indeed what we do in the Arctic. We are quite masterful at adaptation. I did prepare a few slides to illustrate my talk. I hope you can see them on screen. I myself, of course, am a reindeer herder, also representing world reindeer herders. And reindeer herding as an industry, a way of life, if you will, is one of the largest users of the Arctic landmass, as can be seen from this map. There are 24 different indigenous peoples that follow the reindeer for a living. All of them are to variable degree small business owners and operate by business logics. We could also talk about reindeer herding as indeed a very old user of the Arctic. And I agree with our colleague Timo that the Arctic is not a wilderness. The Arctic is instead a homeland. In our case, for the indigenous reindeer herding peoples who all have very long histories in the north. And as we now see we now experience a time of historical, unprecedented change in the Arctic. Changes in the climate and natural systems, ecosystems. And we also see a changed use of the Arctic, different type of increasing human activities across the north. It is quite clear that those who are, as a starting point, most dependent on nature is also most vulnerable when that nature is changing. And of course, from our point of view, we must ask ourselves, what kind of development can we have? What kind of future for the nomadic indigenous peoples of the Arctic? Can we have a development based on our own premises? A development that is based on our own knowledge, our own resources, and not least our own people, our own youth. And I think there could be many answers to this, but we have started to work with a specific field, the field of food. Because all the reindeer herding peoples have a deep knowledge about food and food resources. And we have very special food in the Arctic for many reasons. The ecosystems are quite special. And we believe that there is a great potential here because most of this knowledge and this tradition of food has not been used and certainly not been used efficiently in terms of economic development. So there is a great potential here. There was mention of the Arctic Council. We are, the Association of World Reindeer Herders is an observer to the Arctic Council since 2000. And we have therefore initiated several projects, one of which is a project for youth focusing on food culture and in the end also economic development, because we have to find some new solutions. So our question is, how can we have a new approach to address and handle these changes in the north? How can we use our own knowledge to develop our own societies, and in so doing engage our younger generation to take charge for this development? And we've had a number of workshops all across the Arctic. We've been quite a few times to Sakha Republic, for instance. We've been to all the Arctic nations the last years, involving youth locally and also involving across national boundaries, across cultures, and across generations. And one of the things that we have done is to develop an education program, which we call Food Innovation Leadership. How can we provide better mechanisms for our youth to develop businesses, to develop products, to take their own ideas to the market? And we made this as a university level course, but we've run several pilot training versions in Norway and also in Russia, in Sakha Republic. And we are looking to develop this further. I should also mention that we have the Innovation School and Northeastern Federal University in Yakutsk as partners, along with others. Our main partner here is Nord University in Norway. And also another interesting prospect is that of the sea routes opening up. This is some data from our colleagues at the Center for High North Logistics, Mr. Stockwick and his team. as the Arctic is opening up, and in particular as the sea routes are opening up, we find ourselves in an interesting situation, because if you look at especially eastern Siberia, there's very little infrastructure along the coast. At the same time, when the ice is away, there is great numbers of reindeer at the coast during the summer period. And so we are working on a concept to develop a mobile unit for slaughtering and processing reindeer meat. We could also talk about other resources, fish and so on, but to utilize the new sea routes as a market channel also for products from the Arctic indigenous societies, we think is one way into the future. And indeed, we know from the experience in Scandinavia that reindeer meat is the highest valued meat in the Scandinavian market. It has a great market potential, and so there should be a possibility to develop these concepts and this thinking into success. Also, I should say that we are quite confident that the food culture and traditions and knowledge that we represent is really of value. And the reason why I can say that with a bit of credibility is that the report made for the Arctic Council ministerial meeting in 2017, this book you see here, Ällo is the name of our project. It means a reindeer herd. This book won the prize as the world's best food book in 2018 in competition with 1,372 books from 116 nations. So we know that the food culture of the Arctic indigenous peoples can in fact be the best in the world. To round off, I should say that when we look at the changing Arctic, of course, change means both challenges and opportunities. This is inherent in change. But what we can see is usually the situation is that our societies, our nomadic indigenous peoples, are usually swamped, usually immobilized by all the negative impacts of a changing Arctic, especially the fragmentation of grazing lands and disturbances of our nomadic migration systems and socioeconomic challenges. All of this is quite puts a strain on our capacities. So we are not really in a good opportunity, in a good position to exploit the opportunities of a changing Arctic. And this, we think, is very important to address, because for a good future, we of course need to have a focus on the challenges. But we believe that the challenges are so vast that unless we are also able to exploit the opportunities on our own terms, we will not have a happy ending of our Arctic story, long history in the north. So to build the capacity of indigenous peoples and their societies and our youth is really the essential and key challenge before us to have a fruitful development also for the Arctic nomadic indigenous peoples. Thank you.
Спасибо большое, Андерс.
Thank you very
Так
much,
как сейчас,
Anders.
вы можете покинуть наше
As long as
мероприятие,
now
я
you
бы,
are probably
хотел
leaving
обратиться к
our
коллегам.
event, I
Если
would
у вас
like to
вопросы к
ask
Андерсу,
my
вы
colleagues
можете
if
сейчас
they
задать
have
или
some
скомментировать его
questions
выступление.
to
Пожалуйста,
Anders
у
that
кого
you would
есть
like to
желание
ask, or maybe you have some
задать вопрос или
comments.
сделать
You are
комментарий.
welcome to do it now.
Вопросов нет.
No
Я не
questions.
вижу поднятых рук.
I don't see anybody raising their
Хорошо.
hands.
Спасибо большое,
So
Андерс.
thank you very much, Anders.
И тогда мы переходим к следующему.
Let's move
Спасибо.
move on to our
Johansson,
next speaker, Mr.
Director
Haldur
Arctic Portal
Johansson, the director of the Arctic Portal from Iceland.
Good morning.
Хорошо, по регламенту идем.
Доброе
Everyone.
утро, добрый день.
It's a great pleasure for me to
Я
take
очень
part
рада присутствовать
in this discussion.
на этом круглом столе.
I've had the pleasure of working with many of you for considerable time, and been involved with the Northern Forum, and I've
Я уже
seen its
достаточно давно работаю с
development.
Северным форумом.
I do hope that we have an opportunity to see some opportunities together.
И я надеюсь,
Stop
что у
just
нас
thought,
есть
but also
возможность
discussion.
изучить и
So,
возможность.
what is it about the Arctic or the North and the new challenges? These are all points that you are all very well aware of, and something that Timo and others have already mentioned. There's an increased interest in the Arctic, and it, of course, has to do with the economic, environmental, and strategic global impact that the Arctic actually has. And in the geopolitics, there's the so-called race for the Arctic, which is, of course, alarming. We know of the resources in the Arctic. We know the climate change. Shipping has been mentioned, and I know Jel Stockwick will mention that. But it's not just the destination and transshipping, it's also the fishing and the cruises that is increasing very rapidly as tourism has been, even though right now we of course are seeing a decline as mentioned before. And as Anders has mentioned, it's an area of opportunities and also of course threats. So I have been working with maps for a long time, and as I have a planning background, I like to visualize what's going on. So if you look at the Arctic from the point of view of resources in the Arctic, you can see a very colorful map, because the resources in the Arctic are very humble. There's talk about maybe 30%. So we have pipelines, and we have new prospects, and those are also, of course, opportunities and threats. Shipping has been mentioned. Anders just mentioned also the coastal. You can see there the coastal cities of Russia. A very interesting network that opens up, and of course, when you connect that also to the rivers, etc., you can develop a network which opens up new areas that have been difficult to connect to. And then we have the trans-Arctic shipping opportunities, etc. So when we put all that together and also add to it some of the fishing prospects, you can see a very busy map. So all of this calls for better governance. Anders has already mentioned the Arctic Council. Arctic Council has also the working groups, and they also have sort of the Arctic Economic Council on the sideline in a way. Nobody really knows where the Arctic Council is taking business to, but we can have that as a discussion later. Arctic Council has made some agreements on circumpolar cooperation. One of those is the international cooperation on search and rescue. They also have an agreement on oil spill preparedness, and another one on science cooperation or data cooperation. And then, as mentioned, we have different people and peoples living in the Arctic, and it's usually referred to as an area of about 4 million people. That is sort of the Arctic definition. If we look at a more north definition, the numbers are of course much higher and very likely to increase in the near future due to climate change and the resources. So there's this interest. This is a picture from my own community 2 years ago. I like to show this picture because it shows what we're dealing with. We have a community of less than 20,000 people, and on a single day we can have as many as 10,000 tourists plus crew, etc. in our community in the fjord, and we have very, very limited capacity to deal with. We have buses for the tourists, but if anything happens to those ships, we don't have any capacity. And the big question is always, is this bringing benefits for the local people and the local stakeholders? And then we have climate change, and we are seeing incredible weather patterns. Those are extremes. This is a weather map from last December in Iceland. No, sorry, it's February. Sorry, this was on February. But we had patterns from December until February that were so extreme that the international airport was closed for about 20 days, which has not happened before. So it's actually putting a stress also on the infrastructure in a different way. So this is something that we are probably likely to see in the years to come. So the new challenges, we have some regulations, as I mentioned, we have forums like the Northern Forum, Arctic Economic Council, that have been implemented and are designed to support our developments. There's a growing understanding that we need knowledge and responsible development, and the knowledge we need to support the policy and governance for the benefit of our people. So all this is basically leading to a recognition of the need of sound data services. And we've had two science ministerial meetings organized not by the Arctic Council, but in cooperation with the Arctic Council, of course. Last one had 27 ministers from around the world coming together to discuss scientific cooperation and data in the Arctic region for the benefit of the globe. And this is something that we should look at very seriously, because it should provide us opportunities. So the next one was supposed to be in Japan now in November, but has been postponed until May next year. So there's still an opportunity for the Northern Forum and the initiative we're talking about to be mentioned and to be introduced to the ministers, which I think is very, very important. There's a growing understanding of the need for funding, and especially supporting SMEs. I had an opportunity to take part in a discussion organized by the youth of the Northern Forum on Sunday, and there were some very interesting examples from Yakutia that I think will benefit our proposal. And all this leads to, in my opinion, what I mentioned before, and looking at the global picture, we need an Arctic business plan that is developed in a global context. And I think Timo sort of mentioned that in a way, but we need to collect the information and provide guidance to the different stakeholders. Because if we talk about stakeholders that are showing the Arctic interest, European Commission, of course, is putting a lot of money into research. There's also the European Investment Fund that is highly interested in taking part, even though they don't know quite how to do it. We have the Nordic Investment Bank. I've spoken to top bankers there. They're also very interested, but they have not really taken the step. And then we have the Chinese initiative, the Belt and Road, etc. So there's a lot of interesting opportunities where I think the Northern Forum could play a central role. And perhaps this could lead to an Arctic Investment Fund or an Arctic Support Fund. That's also been mentioned in some interesting discussions before. Oxford Research did a report for the Danish Foreign Ministry a couple of years ago. And one of the main recommendations was that probably this is very needed, because there is a need for venture capital, especially when it's related to the Arctic. And I can tell you from my own experience, we tried to get capital from our venture fund on our business development tools for the Arctic. And then I got the answer back of, well, sorry, Arctic is not innovation. And that's very difficult to understand living in Northern Iceland. So we have been working on this Arctic Business Directory and Information Systems. And the main goals of that project is to advance responsible resource infrastructure and economic development, and help identify the competitive advantages of our region, business information and relevant tools so that we can know each other, we can support each other, we can learn from each other, highlighting the expertise. There's a lot of expertise in our region that is very applicable, and I know Andrei Krivorotov will mention that a bit later, how we can make these small and medium enterprises interesting for the big ones, the mega ones that are basically doing the business in the north. And all of this should lead to the strengthening role of the Northern Forum in regional and global development and policy shaping. So we've been working on this data management system for data collecting, processing, and storage. So we can link to, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel, but connect the wheels, connect the initiatives that we have out there so that we can actually use that to the advantage of our people. So have access to both maps and statistics, and do this in collaboration with consortiums like SEON of the Arctic Council, the Arctic Data Committee, Arctic Economic Council, etc. And we have quite a base. We at the Arctic Portal, Arctic Data, we've been working on permafrost data. We host the database on permafrost as an example, which is of course extremely important to our region. We have the Arctic Marine and Aviation Transportation Infrastructure Database, which has information on all the airports and harbors, etc. in the region. We're working with the Arctic Council on Renewable Energy Atlas. We already have that up and running, so you can get information on renewable resources, including wind and solar, etc. So, and apart from that, we're working with KMI in Korea on Arctic statistics, which I think would be a very appropriate partner to the Northern Forum. And they've been to some events of the Northern Forum before. They were last year, they were actually at this conference that we now have online. And we have, as a base for our system, we've already developed the interface for the mapping part and the display of the statistics. And we already have more than 700 layers of data and information available for as a basis of the project. So the arcticbusinessdirectory.org is to have results on how we can identify and engage stakeholders, collect data to produce an electronic catalog of information, provide local entrepreneurs with access to information and outreach and business support tools, which I think is extremely important. And of course, we will have their regulations, all the basically information you need to be able to move between regions and countries, so that we have the knowledge-based scenarios and we can promote dialogue, support decision-making and policy, etc. Sorry that I'm speaking long, but finally, what is the future of Arctic business development? There's been, over the years, I've been working around the Arctic for quite some time, and Arctic business talk has been going up and down. There's been reports coming in with incredible numbers, and then, of course, we know that the oil and gas business had some serious setbacks, and now it's back with the Yamal project, etc. And this is a statement from last year's Arctic Forum, where the goal set by Russia and China leaders was to achieve a turnover of more than $200 billion in common projects. So of course, there's an opportunity for Northern Forum to play a role in such cross-national and cross-regional development. So I think there's a great future, but also mentioning the comment that Anders made earlier, that there are opportunities and threats. So knowledge is the key. Cooperation leads to win-win results. We need to have cooperation between the region, and again, the Northern Forum can play a very important role.
Haldur, 1 minute.
Yeah, and then all of that needs to benefit the Arctic people and the peoples, because we have a very diverse area. We have people from different backgrounds. We have people living in different standards. If you look at the living standards in, for example, in Scandinavia, they're among the highest in the world. And if you go to some of the other areas, like in northern Canada, northern Alaska, the living standards are quite different. So I will actually end here, and I hope we can have some time for discussions after this. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Haldur. У нас, конечно, время очень быстро летит.
Yes, of course, time
Сейчас
is
я хотел бы
flying.
предоставить.
Now
Во время обсуждения мы еще
I think that
обменяемся
during the
мнениями,
discussions
зададим
we will
необходимые
exchange some
вопросы.
opinions and we will
Надеемся,
ask
что
some
останется время
questions.
для
I
этого.
hope we have some time for that.
Следующее выступление я хотел бы
And the
предоставить
next
Зое Афанасьевне
speaker, I would like to give the floor to Ms. Zoya Sedalisheva, the Director General of My Business Center of the Sakha Republic, Yakutia.
Добрый день, уважаемые участники круглого стола.
Good afternoon, dear participants of the round
Прежде
table.
всего, хочу вас
First of all, I would like to welcome everybody and to thank you for the opportunity to speak about our unified marketplace made in Yakutia. As the previous speakers have mentioned, the development of a unified marketplace is of course reasoned mostly by this epidemiological situation, although we also had some preconditions for that before. Our republic has considerable reserves of berries and mushrooms, and we have a lot of local production, for example, dairy products, vegetable and meat, and also we have some preconditions for self-provision, self-sustained production of fish and eggs. And this is one of the preconditions for this unified marketplace to bring together all local producers. And the priority of our state policy in the area of small and medium business is the development of local production. And on the whole, the campaign is aimed not only to establish favorable conditions, but also for the promotion of local producers and businessmen in the Russian markets and international markets. And in order to stimulate this development, for our businessmen to be comfortable in working and to support them. Lately in our republic we have established the infrastructure of support for business, including information, consulting, education, property support. It is provided by various agencies that are operating in Yakutia successfully. And for the image of our local producers in terms promoting our local production, our government, together with our Chamber of Commerce, have created a brand of Made in Yakutia. This is a trademark that brings together a number of services and goods produced in Yakutia. And in order to promote this brand, this year in June, we decided to create a unified marketplace that could bring together all producers of goods and services of our republic. And in June, we developed a concept for this unified marketplace. And on September 27, 2 days ago, on our state holiday, we launched this marketplace at etp14.ru. On this marketplace, we place businessmen for free, where they can present their products without any investment. They can get online orders and get payments and to position their products as a product made in Yakutia. And their main goal is to enhance their markets, which will of course affect the entire development of business in our republic, and to increase the competitiveness of products and services produced in our republic, which will allow our businessmen to reach to the markets of other regions and countries. The first stage is just the launch.
В этом году, значит, начать
This
продажи
year
они
we
уже
plan
начаты.
to
Первые
start
продажи у нас
sales, and the
произведены
first sales
прямо
have
27
already
числа у предпринимателей. Мы
been
планируем сейчас
affected on the September
кампанию провести по
27.
продвижению
Now
у нас
we
на
are
территории
planning
республики.
this
2021
advertising
год это
campaign.
выход на
In
другие регионы, на рынки других
2021, we plan
регионов.
to reach
И,
the
значит,
markets of
в
other
2021
regions,
году у нас
and
запланирован
also
перевод сайта на
the
иностранные языки.
website
И
has to be
22
translated
год в
in
наших
other
планах это
languages.
выход
In
маркетплейса на рынке,
2022,
ну, на международный рынок,
marketplace
скажем так.
made
Мы к
in
этому
Yakutia
готовимся. В
has to
концепции
reach
нашей
international
торговой площадки это
markets.
обозначено, конкретные сроки перед нами
And
поставлены.
we have a very specific time frame for all our stages.
В витринах маркетплейса представлены национальная
Currently,
посуда,
you
якутские
can
ножи,
see our
ювелирные
national
изделия,
dishes,
сувениры,
Yakut
это
knives,
продукты, одежда.
jewelry,
Из услуг у нас
clothes,
пока услуги туризма представлены.
tourism
И можно сказать,
services.
что наполнение маркетплейса у нас
And,
ведется на постоянной основе. Мы встречаемся
All
с
these
некоторыми
products and
трудностями,
services on the marketplace, they are being replenished on a regular basis. Of course, we are facing some difficulties and challenges, starting even from the standards of photos that can be used on a website. But we are working on that, and our main goal is that the marketplace could involve not only the businessmen from Yakutsk, but also the businessmen from remote Arctic localities and from the center of our republic. Not only from Yakutsk, but also from other regions.
Максимально облегченный интерфейс магазина
We have
и
a very simple interface and also video instructions, and they will allow businessmen to work in this e-shop on their own and to manage their sales. And we hope that the implementation of this project will allow our businessmen to increase and to enhance their markets, increase their labor productivity, and we hope that for the population of other regions and other countries, they will be allowed to buy these ecologically clean products made in Yakutia. Not only foodstuffs, but also our services, for example, tourism services. And to some products of mammoth tusk and silver and gold jewelry and gems. We hope that our products will reach their customers not only in Yakutia, but also in Russia and in some international markets. So thank you for your attention.
Спасибо большое.
Thank you, Ms. Sedalsheva. I'm sorry.
Зоя Афанасьевна, за очень интересное выступление.
Thank you for this very interesting presentation. I think that Haldur and Zoya could cooperate very actively and productively because your ideas are quite close. Do we have Andrei Krivorotov with us?
Прямо точно с 18 до 18:10 должен был.
Because he was supposed to speak exactly from 6 p.m. to
Так, если есть вопросы
6:10 p.m. So if you have any questions to Ms. Sedalisheva about the marketplace made in Yakutia, maybe Andrei Krivorotov will join us in a few minutes.
Халдур, у тебя есть вопрос? Да, пожалуйста, Халдур.
Haldur, please.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. I think it's very, very interesting, and I can see the connection between what I was discussing before about the Arctic Business Directory and of course the information systems and your marketplace. And this is exactly, I think, what we need to do, and I think it's also what Timo mentioned before. We have to connect the wheels, and we have to get like all these components to work together. So I look forward to receiving more information. But maybe can you tell us a little bit technically what you're using, what kind of a platform, how many users you already have, and how many are you seeing an interest? I know it's a very new project, but have you tested it so that you can like really see how it's being used?
Проект, конечно же, для нас
Yes, the
новый.
project is totally
Технических
new
вопросов,
for us,
конечно,
and
я не совсем
technically
осведомлена,
I'm
но
not
могу
very
сказать по
good,
наполнению. На
but
сегодняшний день у нас
I'm not very good at this
порядка
technical issues, but
57
as of today we have
магазинов на
some
маркетплейсе.
57
До конца года
shops
у нас
in our
будет 100
marketplace, and by the end of the year we plan to have 100 local shops, and we have to bring this number to 200. We have to understand that there are certain requirements, and these businessmen, they have to be only local producers.
Для предпринимателей этот
And
проект
for businessmen, this project is absolutely free. They don't pay anything. On our platform, they just create their shop. They effect some payments, and for them, this is absolutely free additional platform to sell their products. And the support of this marketplace is conducted by My Business Center. Thank you, Zoya. Well, unfortunately, I don't see Andrei. Maybe he is delivering a lecture now. But I'm absolutely sure that in Nenets Autonomous Okrug, the Business Development Center is doing the same thing. And when I went to Naryan-Mar, I saw that they were also marketing online. And in Nenets Okrug, the information technologies are quite well developed, and they are used very actively. They have a telemedicine conference every year in place, and I think that with our colleagues from Naryan-Mar, we can also find some contacts, because we are planning to reach some Russian and international level, and I hope that by the end of our roundtable today, we will find some common solutions. Yes, looks like Andrei will not be able to join us, but we cannot wait for him. Let's move. I would like to give the floor to Mr. Nikolai Stepanov, the Vice President of Saha Chamber of Commerce. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Thank you for this opportunity to speak at this platform. I would like to say that we have already discussed this topic with Mr. Vasilyev, and I think that the viability of the Northern Forum can be defined by the effectiveness of economic projects that will be implemented in the Arctic regions, because there will be some interest from the member regions and from businessmen, because ultimately we work for the population, and the well-being of the population depends on the economic activities. So in my opinion, the Northern Forum, in my personal opinion, I think should pay more attention to economic cooperation. I'm a Vice President of Chamber of Commerce, and also I'm the Executive Director of the Union of Collectors, Processors and Exporters of Mammoth Fauna of Yakutia. This union brings together about 21 enterprises, the leading enterprises engaged in collecting and exporting of mammoth tusks. Briefly about mammoth tusk, Yakutia is indeed a unique region because it's a vast territory, and in this territory, geological and historical and geographically, the estimated estimated reserves of mammoth tusk
примерно в 500 тысяч тонн. То есть это очень большой объем,
estimated
который
at 500,000
сейчас находится в
tons,
недрах,
which is a
который
huge volume.
выходит на поверхность земли
And they
и,
come to the
соответственно, является
surface,
предметом сбора для
and
тех,
they
для того
are
населения, которое
collected
обитает именно в
by the
арктических
population
регионах.
residing in
Значит,
the Arctic
в данной сфере,
regions.
вот сейчас, если говорить так, занято не менее 1000
This
человек, которые занимаются сбором, у которых
sphere
есть свои семьи.
employs about
Значит,
1000 people
летом,
who, of
значит,
course, have
сезонные,
families,
когда работа
and
начинается,
in summer,
это
when they
количество, оно
start
как бы по экспоненте еще
working,
больше увеличивается. И очень
the
многие
number of
жители
employed people
арктических
is growing, of
улусов,
course.
районов нашей
And many
республики, они,
residents of the
напрямую
Arctic districts of our
занимаются
republic,
сбором и,
they are
соответственно,
engaged
вовлечены в этот
directly in
экономический
this
процесс. То есть,
collection of mammoth
мамонтовый,
tusk, and they are
как
engaged in
бизнес,
this
он является таким,
economic
не
process.
то чтобы
So
ключевым,
as a
но
business, this is
достаточно существенным бизнесом для республики
quite
Саха-Якутия.
significant business for Yakutia.
Значит, если брать как бы вклад Якутии вообще в
Speaking about
мамонтовый
the
экспорт, то он
contribution of
составляет
Yakutia
порядка
to
90%.
mammoth
То есть
export, it
общемировые,
makes
как бы, сборы,
about 90%.
экспорт и товарооборот мамонтового бивня Республика Саха-Якутия занимает 90%. То есть
We occupy this
подавляющий объем он
90% of
собирается,
this mammoth
экспортируется
tusk
именно
export
якутскими
in the world. So
предприятиями. Значит, как я сказал,
you can see that
очень
this
большое
is a
количество людей
very
у нас сезонно, тем более
big
завязано
number.
на этом деле. В основном у нас экспортируется все это в
we
страны
mostly
Азиатско-Тихоокеанского
export
региона.
mammoth
Понятно,
tusks
это
to the
Китайская
Asia
Народная Республика,
Pacific,
где
to
традиционно
China,
развита
where
обработка слоновой кости, и теперь
they
после
have been
запрета
traditionally
к обороту слоновой
processing
кости, мамонтовая кость, она стала очень
elephant
хорошей альтернативой
bone.
для
But after the ban,
производства
this
изделий
mammoth
из
tusk
мамонтовой
has
кости,
become a
которые
good
аналогичны,
alternative
как и слоновая кость.
because
Конечно,
they are
есть
the same.
определенные, как бы,
Of course,
предвзятость,
there are,
все-таки ограничения, связанные со слоновой
some
костью, они идут по
challenges
инерции, они очень достаточно такие
because this
жесткие,
elephant
соответственно, очень такие, как бы, некоторые
tusk
боязни у
restriction
многих импортеров
restrictions, they cause some Chinese importers to be afraid of these processes because
бивень мамонтовый. Мы, кстати,
they are preoccupied by the fact of certification, that this is really a mammoth tusk. And now we are working on this international certification.
который позволит этот сертификат
And
преодолевать дальше
these
границы и
certificates
перемещаться,
can be used internationally, and they will allow to export these products to other countries. So in this picture you can see a person holding a tusk in the north. Yes, and we can find such unique tasks. It's a very hard work, but it is conducted, and the volume of extraction, of collection, and export make some 60 tons. I think that also some poaching, but the official volumes are some 60 tons that are exported to the Asia Pacific countries, mostly to China.
Значит, наряду, значит, с
Along with
экспортом
the
у нас в
export,
республике очень развито косторезное искусство.
we
то, о
have
чем
a
сейчас
very well
говорила
developed
Зоя
bone
Афанасьевна.
carving
Это отдельное направление.
that
У нас
has been
у
mentioned
якутов
by
это
Zoya
традиционно очень,
also. It has
развитое, как бы, даже
been
есть, как бы,
traditionally
национальная
developed
предрасположенность
in
к
Yakutia.
производству таких изделий косторезных. Это очень как бы хорошие, изящные, и очень такие позитивные вещи, которые имеют право тоже экспортироваться. И они наряду с этим создают рабочие места,
also, and they also create jobs because this bone carving production is developed not only in Yakutsk but also in the north.
Также реализуется и осуществляется. То есть это рабочие места, это деньги,
Again,
это
these are
возможность тоже
jobs,
людям прокормить
money,
свои семьи.
and the
Вот здесь
possibility for the
представлены
people
на слайде те
to
образцы,
support
которые
their
делаются нашими
families. Here
якутскими
you can see
мастерами.
some
Я очень рад, что у нас
examples of
действительно
these bone
marketplace
carving
открывается
products. I'm
сделано в
very
Якутии.
glad that
Я надеюсь,
this
что
e-marketplace made in
многие наши
Yakutia
также
has
будут
been
поставлять свою
launched.
продукцию
I
и
hope
на этом
that
маркетплейсе
these
сделано в
bone
Якутии.
carving products will
Наряду
be
с этим
promoted there.
с традиционным косторезным искусством
But
есть
together
ряд
with
предпринимателей,
traditional
вот
bone
Лазарев
carving,
Иннокентий Дмитриевич, такой есть, он
there's
сейчас
a
делает
number
патент
of
на создание
businessmen, for
материала,
example,
это
Mr. Lazarev,
стабилизированная мамонтовая кость, то есть берется как бы
to
третий
create
сорт, то
a
есть не
new
совсем
material, a
качественный, из
stabilized
бивня, щепа бивня,
mammoth
и из которого
tusk.
делается уже стабилизированный
They
материал,
work
который
on a low
выполняется
quality
полимерами, и, соответственно, получаются вот такие
mammoth
вот
tusk. They
достаточно
fill it up with some
уникальные, такие
polymers,
эксклюзивные лакшери
and then they
изделия, которые
produce
уже потом
this
в последующем применяются и при
luxurious
отделке, значит, ведутся им
products that
переговоры
can
с
be
тем, чтобы
used
автомобили
in different
представительского
areas.
класса,
For example,
скажем, ну, такие немецкие компании,
in
там, BMW, Mercedes, которые
decorating
делают элитные автомобили, также использовали этот
elite
материал в
cars like
отделке
Mercedes
в
or
отделке своих салонов,
BMW.
внутренняя отделка салонов. Это
They
может
can
применяться
use
и в
this
мебели, в других изделиях.
stabilized
И,
mammoth
соответственно,
tusk
это очень
to
такой хороший сегмент, очень
decorate
хорошая
the
ниша,
interior
которая
of
может
their
использоваться
cars. This is a
при
great niche that can
поставки
be
такого материала. И это производство
used
сейчас у нас
for the
реализуется. Я к чему такую предысторию
deliveries
сказал,
of
вводное
this
слово.
material.
Значит,
So this was
и
just an
экспорт, и
introduction.
производство как этого
This
инновационного
e-export
материала, и
and
косторезного требует, естественно,
e-production,
ну,
of course,
денег, потому что деньги —
require
это кровь
money,
экономики,
because money is
требуется
a blood
для
of
того, чтобы даже
economy,
подготовить
and
материалы для экспорта,
money is
требуется
required
как бы
for everything.
пополнение оборотных средств. Для организации производства тоже
To
требуется и
organize
оборудование, там,
production
присоединение,
and
электроэнергии,
some
оборудование,
engineering
которое требуется для производства этих проектов. Я
infrastructure,
абсолютно согласен
etc.
вот
And I
с господином
totally
Johanssоном. Он сразу,
agree
да, как бы
with
на упреждение,
Mr.
как будто этот, мы с ним
Johansson.
думаем синхронно,
I think that
поскольку
we are
создание вот
thinking
такого института развития, который будет
simultaneously,
именно для Арктики,
because
он
I think
нужен.
that the
Значит,
establishment
есть
of this
как бы классические
development
финансовые
institute
институты,
is
это банки,
now
например,
very
которые
relevant.
требуют, ну,
There are some
все мы
classical
понимаем, это
financial
залоги,
institutes
значит,
like banks, but
требуются
they
как бы
require
некие обеспечительные меры,
pledges
которые
and collaterals
наши северные предприниматели, которые
that
маленько ограничены в деньгах, не совсем
are
удобно им
not
такая схема работы.
affordable
У нас в республике
to
действительно есть
our
развитая
northern
система
businessmen.
инфраструктуры поддержки
Yes, of
предпринимательства.
course, we have a
Тем не
great
менее,
infrastructure for the
наверное,
support
есть
of
необходимость создания вот
businessmen,
такого специфичного
but
арктического
maybe we
института развития финансового
require a
кредитного учреждения,
specifically
которое могло
Arctic
бы на более
Development
простой
Institute,
основе
a financial
предоставлять
institution
заемные средства
that
на
could
пополнение оборотных
provide
средств, там, в режиме
loans
лизинга.
in
Я
a
заметил, у господина
simplified
Johanssona
manner.
там была
I saw
позиция
in
создания
Mr. Johansson's
венчурного
presentation
фонда. То
the
есть иногда,
establishment
значит,
of
если
a
нет возможности
venture
людей
fund.
обеспечительные
Sometimes
залоги, меры
when
предоставить,
people cannot provide
возможность как бы
collaterals and pledges,
рискового финансирования, венчурного финансирования.
and they can use
Значит,
this
у нас в
opportunity
Российской
of
Федерации
venture
есть
funds. In
банк,
Russia,
Росэксимбанк, который
we
занимается
have a
кредитованием
bank,
экспортных сделок. То есть
Bank that
подписан уже экспортный
gives
контракт,
loans to
выдается кредитные
export
средства. Но, к сожалению,
contracts,
акценты
export
пока сделаны на то, чтобы
transactions, but
Россия
they now
экспортировала
focus on the
оборудование. То есть
Russian
Росэксимбанк в
export
основном
of
работает с крупными компаниями,
equipment, and they
которые
mostly
производят
work with
технологичное
large
оборудование, в том числе
companies that
вооружение, и,
produce
соответственно, в основном
technological
предоставляют,
equipment,
кредитуют,
including arms.
те предприятия, которые
weapons.
занимаются именно высокотехнологичным
And so they
оборудованием.
give
В
loans
связи с
to the
этим, как бы,
companies engaged
выпадает
in
у нас
some
из поля зрения
high-tech
именно такие вот
equipment.
проекты небольшие.
And
Например, если
that is
мамонтовый
why
бивень,
some
только
small-scale
экспорт,
projects
порядка
cannot be
составляет
supported.
миллионов долларов США. То есть это
So
сравнительно
in
небольшие деньги.
Mammoth Tusk
Соответственно, производство этого материала
field,
тоже
the
порядок
volume
цифр
of
намного меньше.
financing is
И
about 15
мы,
million US dollars,
как
which
бы
is
очень
not very
ходатайствовали были, Северный форум,
much for
создание вот
this
такого фонда, либо банка,
large-scale banks.
с
So
привлечением
we
там
are
как полевой
applying to the
капитал,
Northern
наверное, всех
Forum, we are
участников
addressing the
Северного
Northern Forum with
Можно
the
определить, наверное,
proposal
какой-то
of
уполномоченный банк.
creating
Мы с Владимиром
some
Николаевичем проговаривали.
Arctic
Есть у нас
bank.
Алмаз-Регионбанк.
For example, in
в
our
Республике
republic we
Саха-Якутия.
have
Это региональный
Almas-Ergen
банк,
bank, a regional bank that has all required licenses. Maybe it can be used as an authorized bank. Of course, this is open to discussion, and the establishment of such institute is not a speedy process, and it will require a lot of time because we have to take in account the requirements of national and international requirements. But I think that the establishment of such bank is very topical, and I think that if the Northern Forum could implement such project, it would be great. So the final slide again, I would like to repeat that all of that is done for the people. If we have money, there is production. If there is production, there is a way for the people to support their families, and they will have active economic life. And I agree with the colleague who spoke about reindeer husbandry, because this is true not only for mammoth tusk collecting. And so I want this bank, I wish this bank to be international and maybe could involve the member regions of the Northern Forum. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm happy to speak at this platform. And thanks to Vladimir, who supported me and who helped me to make this presentation. Thank you, Nikolai. Now we have Andrei with us.
Добрый вечер. Без перехода.
Добрый день, меня хорошо слышно?
Can you hear me?
Меня слышно?
Очень хорошо слышно.
Yes, we can hear you.
Замечательно.
Great.
Добрый день, уважаемый Владимир Николаевич,
hello, Mr. Vasilyev,
hello, my dear
and
friends from Scandinavia. Я должен извиниться.
I have to
Я сегодня не
apologize.
в обычном для себя месте нахожусь.
I'm not in a usual place. I'm delivering some lectures at Skolkovo. That's why I had some technical overlapping. But I am really very happy that I'm able to join your event. I'm glad to see everybody, even if it's not in person. And my presentation today, as it was agreed with Mr. Johansson, will be dedicated to the following topic. Please, my presentation. Halder asked me to raise the issue of how we can bring together, combine the efforts of large-scale investors and local businesses in the Arctic projects. If you have my presentation, can you please turn it on? Mr. Vasilyev.
Ребята, у вас есть презентация Александра Константиновича?
My presentation, I sent it a couple of days ago.
Я очень надеюсь, что я... Есть?
I hope that you have my
Да,
presentation.
мне тут говорят, что вам лучше самому показать презентацию.
Can you
или
show
она у вас
it
с собой?
yourself, or you don't have it with you? Yes, I have it with me. Just a second, because it was my understanding that it will be demonstrated from Yakutsk.
Да, хорошо, пока у нас...
But while we have this break,
пожалуйста, возможно,
maybe you can some questions to Mr. Stepanov?
Или подождем,
Or shall we
чтобы
wait?
затягивать время.
I have a question. I'm just wondering if he has any ideas of where the financing could be coming from. I mentioned a few of the big funds. Would you have some resources within Russia, for example, or who should play a role? Arctic Council maybe, or how do you see it?
Я пока затрудняюсь ответить. Это просто,
It's quite difficult for me to answer your question now. We only started this discussion a month ago, and we sent some letters to the head of our republic, Mr. Nikolaev, and to our regional bank, Almaz-Ergen Bank. But I have to repeat that there are some standards and banking instruments, but that will probably not allow us to implement such high-risk Arctic projects, because the key problem here is the collateral. So maybe one of the options is to establish this venture fund without these classical collateral requirements to provide funding to such projects. And maybe we could start with some small amounts to make it like a collective capital from the countries, from different countries. You have mentioned venture fund and Northern Investment Bank. So we are just discussing it, and I decided to use this opportunity to speak about it and to exchange some opinions and maybe to share some solutions. Yes, the establishment of a real international bank in the Russian Federation is quite a complicated procedure and process, and it requires a very big authorized capital. And this is just an idea, and we have to discuss whether it would be possible to find support for such an idea as the establishment of the bank. When we were discussing it with our regional bank, they were ready to act as an authorized bank, because they say that we have all tools to support small and medium businesses and export opportunities. So it would be better to maybe use the already existing tools. So we are just at the beginning of our way, and I hope that we will find. It is not necessarily that it is a bank. Maybe it would be easier to have it as a fund, because banks, they have a lot of different requirements and restrictions. So maybe it would be better to have it as a venture fund, because they have some simpler requirements, and we could come together as colleagues and investors and then provide funding to such projects. But we have to somehow avoid these collateral schemes. And there will be a guarantee for a counter agent. And this doesn't have to be a bank necessarily. I think that it would be easier to have it as a fund.
Андрей Константинович, вы готовы, да?
Okay, Mr. Krivorotov, are you ready?
Так. Немножко подождем. Сейчас Андрей Константинович включит презентацию.
Yes, we can see the presentation now.
Презентация хорошо видна.
We can see the presentation.
Да, хорошо слышно.
Yes, we can hear you. Oh, well, excellent. We have overcome these technical problems. Good afternoon. Once again.
Technical issues, but I'm really very happy to speak here. I'll switch over to Russian, as most of the audiences are Russian speakers, but the presentation is bilingual.
I will continue in Russian, because most participants are Russian speaking, but the presentation is in two languages, because Haldor asked me from my experience to tell about this complicated problem of how we can harmonize the interests of large-scale and non-northern business with smaller businesses. I can share the experience of two projects in Russian and Norway Arctic, but I think that it can be applied in other regions of the world as well.
Сейчас осталось только... Итак, на севере можно сказать,
So in the north,
действуют три
there are three
типа
big
инвесторов
types
и
of
инноваторов.
Arctic innovation actors.
Во-первых, большой
First,
инвестор, тут стрелочка специально
you
идет
can
из
see
вне
this
экрана. Это инвестор,
arrow
как
from
правило,
outside the
приходящий
screen.
действительно не
These are some
с севера, а откуда-то из
outside
столицы.
investors
Как
from a
правило,
capital
крупный,
usually.
проект в
They
других
come
отраслях
usually to
экономики,
some
либо, допустим,
large-scale
это военное ведомство со своими
projects.
строительными планами.
For example, some military agency with their construction plans. Then the second one is a local business that work for this project, supplying their services or goods. And the third one include numerous local organizations engaged in their business and innovations and technological, commercial and social innovations without any connection to this outside investor. So each of them has some advantages and drawbacks. Nobody is perfect.
Никто не совершенен, но здесь возможно какое-то и нужно какое-то объединение усилий.
But there are synergies. We have to combine our efforts. Large investor brings a lot of money and large organizations and some communications with national government. But as a rule, it brings its technical and organization solutions that quite often do not consider northern peculiarities, and local contributors to this project can adapt them to local conditions. They often lack experience for producing some complex equipment, and they lack some commercial experience. And unfortunately, quite often they have to make some special efforts to get a share from this large-scale investor. And local, non-commercial and commercial organizations that also live in this area, they normally are rooted and localized in their activity. They can offer some unique and organizational solutions. But the problem is that they are usually small and they cannot work in large-scale projects. And unfortunately, their capacities are often not used by large-scale investors. So when everything is done properly, all three types of organizations are needed. They can complement each other and cooperate with each other. But already from this table on the screen, you can see that the task of balancing their interests is quite complicated. Let's have a look at a case which is very interesting. This is Snøhvit in the Arctic shelf of Norway. The problem is that although the key operator was a Norwegian state oil company, Statoil, Now it's Equinor. They said that they will engage local contractors, but they were quite formal. They established a special organization, Petro-Arctic, of local companies, but it turned out that in most cases Statoil bought services and goods not from Petro-Arctic, but from some other Norwegian companies, or even from other countries, for example, Spain. And only after local businesses and authorities got angry with Statoil and pressed on Statoil, and after the state of Norway used some leverages as a shareholder of Statoil, this work went better, and the local producers received most of these contracts. So what is typical here? What Snøhvit demonstrates that the government had to force both parties to cooperate, because Statoil didn't know the capacities of local producers and didn't trust them. So it was easier for Statoil to buy some goods from the capital or from abroad. On the other hand, the local suppliers, they refused to work with Statoil because they understood that their standards were very high. And in the beginning, they could only, for example, supply power to construction sites. But after some serious efforts from the government, they forced both parties to cooperate. And as a result, now more people are employed not by the plant, but by the enterprises that supply their goods and services. Then the second lesson is that everybody had to work. Basically, Statoil is a very patriotic company, and the city municipality of Hammerfest and the local businesses through this Petro-Arctic organization, so this collaboration made a difference. Then thirdly, talking about the supplies to Snøhvit from northern Norway, then the largest share fell on Hammerfest town. Then the second the place was occupied by the neighboring towns, then other towns from Finnmark, and then companies from neighboring Troms, and then from Nordland. So the further you get from the site of the project, the less effect it had on the regional development. And this has to be taken into account, particularly in Russia, because for a long time we have been focusing on implementing mega projects, but the experience of Norway demonstrates that these mega projects, if they are not tasked with localization, they may not produce any effects at all, or have some very limited effects. Because all our northern regions and Arctic regions, they will not be developed by one or even several mega projects, because they are quite compact geographically. The second case that I would like to demonstrate is Stockman Gas Field, where I have been working since 2008. Unfortunately, it hasn't been implemented, but still we are interested to see the effects. I have to say that It had to become a very outbreaking project because it was the first one in the Arctic Shelf implemented by the international team, and we wanted to set some corporate standards and environmental protection and efficiency, and also the standards of cooperation with domestic producers. We worked a lot in this area. Here you can see some pictures from different events that we organized with Russian producers. Our Norwegian shareholders, Statoil, just like the Association of Petro-Arctic, they used this experience in Russia, establishing Murman Shelf in Murmansk Oblast and Sozvezdia in Arkhangelsk Oblast, that cooperated with Stockman Development Company so that we could evaluate their capacity and they could understand the level and the nature of services and goods required to develop the Arctic Shelf. And we were focusing on the fact that they will not work only in Stockman but also in other projects that were planned for implementation in the Arctic Shelf of Russia. The project was not implemented because our target market, the US gas market, was filled with American gas, and the prices, oil and gas prices, went drastically down. So now my company is not operating actively. Gazprom, our Russian shareholder, says that they continue working on Stockman project, but it is not planned for implementation in the future. Why am I speaking about Stockman? Why is it interesting? Although it has not been implemented, but the work had two very interesting regional effects in terms of those two categories of business. The local business oriented to a mega project and the local business not oriented to a mega project. So the first one is this Sozvezdia Association in Arkhangelsk district. I know them very well. I'm a friend of their director. They say that they are not afraid of working for oil and gas projects. We know what international contractors require. We have learned to get certified by international standards. You know that in Yamal they have a huge gas liquefying plant, and now they are working on launching the second phase of this plant. And so this association, Sozvezdia, it can use some of its developments, and they are now actively providing their services and goods to this plant. Okay, I'm coming to the conclusion. And now they have already created a shipyard working for the Northern Sea route. And so this gas liquefying plant has not been constructed, but again, thanks to Leviathan movie, our Teribirka village became known all over the world, and the people learned that they had a unique nature. And most of the peninsula is closed for foreigners, but Stockman company received a permission, and now Teribirka is maybe the only place on the peninsula that can be visited by foreigners, and now they are developing tourism, especially from Scandinavia and China. This is a Chinese student who come to see northern lights and to conceive their children under the northern lights, which they like a lot. So this ripple effect was quite unexpected one. So coming to the conclusions, I have to say that these effects can be very good, but everybody has to be involved, and you should not wait for a large investor to come and to do everything on its own. So thank you very much. Thank you, Andrei, for a very interesting presentation. I think that we will continue this topic with your help. Unfortunately, Arctic Economic Council was not able to attend, but together with them we wanted to discuss the issue of bringing together small and large businesses, and maybe in October and November we will ask them to organize something, and we will invite you, of course. So we are now, we have little time, but we still have 3 presenters, and so now let's move on quickly. Let's unfortunately, I have to leave you. So thank you very much for having me. Yes, thank you, Andrei. Goodbye, everybody. Now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Jel Stockwick, Northern Sea Route.
Thank you very much. Allow me to share the screen for a short presentation.
10 minutes, please.
Thank you. So my name is Jel Stockwick. I work for the Center for High North Logistics as a managing director. We are a center under the Nord University, who has an office also inside Russia. The headquarters for us is in Kirkenes, and we have staff in different locations doing research and working on projects on the Arctic logistics and transportation. Our center was started 10 years ago, and it was the idea of the center was to be engaged in the Arctic shipping, especially focusing on the Arctic Sea Route and the Northern Sea Route, and were well involved in the development of that. It was a lot of stuff on that time was to create information systems around it, and also share information on what's going on there. So I will, in this presentation, I will talk a bit about what's going on the Northern Sea Route, a bit about projects around the Sea Route and investments opportunities around there. And you heard Andrei talked a bit about it, so I will come back to that later. A part of our work has been mapping out infrastructure and what's going on the Sea Route. We have a very good information and a very lot of infrastructure on the western part, but we want to see also map this out on the eastern side and see what's the potential here for infrastructure development, and also business cases around. So what we have seen in the western part of the Sea Route, the northwest Russia, where we are located, is that there is, if you have good information around that, you also can attract investors around the infrastructure development. And that's something we would like to see also take place other places around the Sea Route. We also mapped out traffic, as you saw. Anders showed a map of overproduction. This is the traffic statistics of 2019. What you can see in this map, especially on the yellow lines, is that this is the full year of the operation of the Yamal project, LNG1. And a lot of activities have taken place out of the Norwegian coast last year. like ship-to-ship transfer of LNG outside Honningsvåg. This is one of the example of activities that attract business locally and has created a lot of ripple effects in the Honningsvåg region. Next year, this will, or this year, this has taken place only very few activities in Honningsvåg, but more and more will take place inside Russia. So the location of this effects of the Northern Sea route is always the question from business side. How can we attract business to Norway along this route? And how can we attract business to our local communities? And that's something, it's very interesting. We heard Alder mapping this. We are doing some SAYs, we are engaged in some studies around this, and we see that the more information we can share about this is more interesting for investors to look at opportunities around the areas and locations. Last year, you can see that on the transit of the between Asia and Europe was only down to 37 voyages. This is a trend which is not increasing very much, but it's interesting to monitor for us. And as you know, in the future Russian plans, if the sea route can be open to year-round transportation, this will increase rapidly. And this is interesting to monitor for us as well. Most of the traffic last year was on the destinational traffic, as you heard Anders and Halder mention. Of the 31 million tons of cargo, mostly is going inside out of Russia to destination in Asia and Europe, and some of it is domestic cargos. We see a increase, as you have seen this cargo up to the west, you can see increase of level of cargos, rapid increase, and this will continue. President Putin set a target of 80 million for 2024. We don't expect that to be reached, but there is a growing trend, and if this continues, there will be more and more possibilities for more activities along the sea route. This is a map showing the traffic of the activities the first half year. It's a bit increased from last year, and again, what we see this year compared to last year is increased activities at the earlier stage. So this year's already in May, we see the first traffic of LNG going from Sabetha eastwards to against Asia. And if you continue with this pattern, you will see an earlier start of these activities, and expanding the season will then go much quicker than we expect. Of course, this is very due to ice conditions, but we see a trend here of earlier startups. What you also can see here is that we have more activities in the winter season, and this also is a growing trend. And we expect that to continue with more and more activities taking place. You heard Mr. Andreas speak a bit about activities in the region. I want to talk a bit about project and opportunities of taking part in these big mega projects. As you know, we are a city at the border, and for us, crossing the border and going into Russia, we want to see if there is potential investment, potential trade, potential supplies to these projects. One example is the LNG2, as you heard Andrei mention, that's taking place, the construction site of this fabric is taking place just across the border of Kirkenes, reallocated. Here you can see the drawing of the plant, and it's being built. And the next phase of this is to actually construct the fabric here and tow it out to the location in Obskaya in Gydan across the Sabetha port. In this project, we only had one Norwegian supplier, as I know of, that's been supplying to the here. And that's been the issue here. If you want to get local suppliers here, you need to have maybe a different system, as Andrei mentioned, like they did in Snøhvit, to get this through. What you have seen, there is a lot of European big suppliers and Arctic Asian suppliers connected to this project, not so much located in the Arctic. So again, how can we stimulate local suppliers to take place in this development of mega project is important. For instance, now we see, compared to LNG 1, it was more Norwegian suppliers in the project, and they have better framework conditions to take part in development. So can we find this framework? Is it possible to get more long-term contracts? That's an interesting discussion we have to take part in this project developments. The LNG project also have a big investment that will take place there. It's a $20 billion US, and the capacity of this will be 19.8 million tons of LNG per year. So there'll be another activity that will come on top of the existing and will drive the use of Northern Syria for the next years. What we've seen lately is that there is a very willingness to invest in this project. So here it's easy to raise capital. There's foreign capital part in this, 9.9 billion they raised so far, and the rest will come from the Russian side. So in this pool of investment, there is very driven by the commercial aspects. And I noticed a discussion, how can we come up with other type of funds to local businesses in this, and how can we fund and give capital to this is a very interesting discussion that we like to monitor. I want to mention that before I close there, that there is, in Norway, we have an investment fund, and this is located actually in Kirkenes when it comes to opportunities in Russia as well. We have a pool of, I think it's 27 million euros that we can invest it. And as long as you manage to find a Norwegian investor in the project, you can even go into Sakha Republic here, as long as you have a good business case. This is one example of a funding mechanism that's available to the Arctic, and as long as you can fulfill the criteria, you can have access to this. Well, the other thing that we have discussion with the partners and our partners in this. So what are they looking for if they want to invest? And the answer there is they need stable framework, like legal system, ownership, access to banking, credit. And they are looking for long-term contracts. So if you are combining this, and we can give access to operation, access to work for up to 20 years, Russia is a very interesting country to invest this. And looking at sitting just across the border, this is the most potential and the most biggest market for us on that side. So I want to thank you. I will stop here, and I look forward to future discussions. Thank you very much.
Jel, thank you very much. У нас, я как модератор оставил на десерт наш председательствующий регион, Ненецкий автономный округ.
I have decided that our chairing region, Nenets Autonomous Okrug, will conclude our session, and I would like to give the floor to Mr. Petrov, the CEO of Center for Expert Support from Nenets. So thank you very much. We are the most sparsely populated region of Russia. I represent this business support of the region. And I am responsible for experts, and I would like to share one of the successful practices. Now I'm going to speak about the placing of our goods and services in e-platforms. This procedure includes several stages. First, we analyze the businessmen and their products, and we identify whether they are ready or not. And also, we choose the best platform. Then we choose a platform and a partner, and then we create some advertisement, and then we do monitoring, and we do some adjustments. By our experience, the main platform is Yeti.com, which is an e-platform focused on handmade and unique goods. The first businessman was craftsmen who produced Nenets shaman drums. Previously, they were sold only through some souvenir shops, but this e-commerce allowed to increase sales, of course. Unfortunately, now we have great problems with tourism, but the people from Japan, Italy, France, Canada, Norway bought these shaman drums, which was impossible if we didn't have this e-commerce. So now I would like to demonstrate our authentic Nenets shaman drum. So these, well, such drums are sold worldwide due to this electronic commerce. Thank you very much. I tried to be very brief. Oh, you have saved our time frames. But yes, this is a very interesting presentation, and we would like to continue our conversation in the coming months. We hope to meet with you at our meeting of Regional Coordinators Committee of the Northern Forum. And of course, we would like to visit your center and to touch these drums and to witness, to see how this e-commerce platform operates. And now it's my pleasure to give the floor to Mr. Evgeny Timoshin, who is the founder of Polar Reindeer LLC, which will speak about a specific project. Yes, hello, dear colleagues. I have a short presentation, and to stick to the time, let's start my presentation. So let's share the screen.
Видно, да?
Can you see my presentation?
У нас пока нет.
Not yet.
У меня написано, что демонстрация запущена. Первый
Well,
слайд включил. Как появится, дайте, пожалуйста, знать. Я вот
so when you, yes, we have it.
Да?
We have it
Да,
now.
хорошо, спасибо.
Okay, thank you.
Вот, да, ну вот форум посвящен устойчивому развитию.
So this forum is dedicated to the sustainable development, and this is absolutely true for our concept, the concept of our project. I will tell you about the project implemented together with the Business Development Center.
Ну, поподробнее сейчас расскажу. Проект называется «Создание и производство сухих кормов».
So the project is dedicated to the production of dry feed for pets. So the name of our organization is Polar Reindeer. We are a young company. We have been operating for less than 3 years, and we are engaged in processing of sub-products of reindeer, and we are engaged in producing treats, pet treats from sub-products of reindeer, from, for example, waste products.
для себя решили, что данный проект может быть интересен.
We decided that this project could be interesting to
У
you.
нас в регионе
And
мы являемся первым,
in our region, we are
кто начал
the
заниматься
first
данной
company
темой.
to
И
engage in
вообще
this
сегодня мы
area.
достигли того, что
And
если это применим такой термин,
if
мы
we can
являемся одним из немногих экспортеров товаров, произведенных
use
на
this
нашей
term
территории,
here,
в регионах
we
Российской
are
Федерации.
one of the few
Потому что наш рынок,
exporters
он,
to the Russian
можно
market.
сказать, узкий,
Because
маленький,
our market is,
необъемный.
of course, very
Наш бренд, который
small.
мы создали,
Our
это «Полярное
brand
лакомство» называется. Он
is
сегодня
called
представлен
this
достаточно
Polar
много где. Есть
Treats.
сайт, есть в соцсетях странички и
We
так далее.
have
Я
some social
являюсь
media
куратором проекта,
pages and a
учредителем данной
website,
организации.
and I was a
Вот
founder of
наша
this organization.
северно-ленинская порода.
This Nenets breed of
Когда мы обосновывали
reindeer.
проект,
When we were preparing
себя
the feasibility
в высшей
report
степени,
for
мы брали за
ourselves
основу то, что у нас
mostly,
всё-таки
we
традиционное хозяйственное
focused on the
место, и это
fact
оленеводство.
that
Это
our
основной вид
traditional
экономической
economy
деятельности,
is
для
reindeer
большинства, наверное, населения
husbandry.
нашего и все и потребления, наверное, в том числе. В том числе и важным аспектом новых направлений инвестиционной политики региона являлся пользование продукцией северного оленеводства.
The use of reindeer products was very important in our economic concepts. And reindeer is a unique animal, and we are proud of it. And it can be used 100%. Everything from reindeer can be processed and used. And what is very important is that we mostly use these sub-products. Most of them used to be utilized, but now we process these waste products to produce pet treats.
У нас аналогичного производства, ну и конкуренции на внутреннем рынке.
And we basically didn't have any competitors in our domestic market. Today, well, the time frame for our project was June 2018, December 2019, and now you can see the geography of our project. Here it says that there are 15 regions, but now we have more. We have more than 100 sales points.
Потому что много очень из них, которые наши партнерами являются, сетевые магазины.
And we have quite a lot of chain shops. Our products are very appreciated in the Far East. We have a strong cooperation with the Far East. So what is the goal of our project? To establish the production of dry feed for pets from the sub-products of reindeer. So initially it looked like that. We investigated different kinds of packages, and unfortunately we didn't have a lot of experience at that time. And what were the tasks? Of course we had to develop a concept and to evaluate and make some estimates, develop technology and to get certification, to develop some advertisement campaign, to develop internet resources and to attract users, etc. You can get my presentation from the organizers later if you want. And then we moved to the next phase. Now we have this recyclable packaging. So now we are totally eco-friendly from inside and from outside. And this is our motto that we are using today. Our project
влияние нашего проекта на три основных
affects
аспекта. Как раз
three
вот
main aspects of
экология,
sustainability:
общество и экономика.
ecology, society,
Ну,
and
вот общество
economy.
наше
So what
представлено,
is
можно сказать,
our
да, вот
impact
по-мощному.
on the society?
Основа проекта
We
как раз это,
cooperate with indigenous
производство концентрируется
peoples
здесь, на местном уровне,
because
сырье
our
у нас здесь
production is
местное, покупка
concentrated
местных.
here at the
Фактически
local
используем лишь
level,
только законные официальные схемы с подтверждающей
and
документацией. Это говорит о том, что мы все официально оформляли. То есть все
we
доходную и расходную
have
часть у нас
all
всегда
official
оформлялась.
documents in
Как бы
place.
там, ну, сложно не было. Но мы к этому сегодня всех приучили и работаем
However
по
complicated it
официальным
might seem sometimes.
схемам. Для реализации проекта привлечены местные кадры.
We hire local people and create jobs for local population. We cooperate with students from agri-technical college,
Ну и в том числе и выпускники сейчас его у нас
and its graduates, they also work in our company.
различные тренинги, в том числе
We
вот
have
у нас
organized
в
various
команде
trainings
больше
for our
по
team,
стандарту GPM, Green Project Management,
and we have Green Project Management certified experts in our team. We have cooperated with the science and education institutions. We have an agreement with, for example, the Union of Reindeer Herders of Nenets Autonomous Okrug. And we always use some local symbolism to brand our products, some traditional symbolism. And we are strengthening the local brand of made in Nenets Autonomous Okrug. Economically, our project, of course, develops some interdisciplinary branches of industry and natural resources. It raises local and corporate income, and it provides support to reindeer herders. The project also promotes local economic growth.
Проект способствует местному экономическому росту за счет зачисления налоговых платежей в бюджет различных уровней. Это я о чем предыдущий говорил, что мы работаем официально.
Officially, and we pay taxes. All our income is official. And we are socially responsible. The implementation of the project was among the interests of our regional authorities. In particular, the attraction of private and state investment into local economy. We got some state investments for our primary equipment at the initial stages of our development. We involve high-quality personnel and develop competencies at the local level. And on the whole, this is the improvement of our region's investment appeal, because we are trading in some international platforms. As for the environmental impact, we use the advantages of local resources. Today we process about 20 tons, which used to be waste products, and they had to be utilized. Whereas now we plan that in the future we will increase the volume to 100 tons a year.
При запуске тестовой работы, производство первичных тестовых образцов,
During the
мы отдавали на пробу там своим питомцам, то есть питомники какие-то, и в принципе не загрязняли никого, ничего.
when we were testing our production, we worked also with local companies, and our production technologies. I have to say that we mitigate the
Процесс у нас технологической обработки продукции.
Mitigate some negative impacts on the environment.
Срок годности продукции.
Because we mitigate harmful emissions. For example, I have already demonstrated you this eco-friendly packaging.
У нас уже вот, с октября мы уже поставщикам своим будем отправлять в новые упаковки.
We will start using it in October. And also we use energy-saving technologies.
Вот наш такой один из.
This is one of the samples of our products. This is a hoof of a reindeer. And it's very useful not only for the animals, but for the people also. And also we have received an award, or maybe the evaluation of our work. We were the first certified GPM project. This is an international organization called Green Project Management. It took us 3 months to undergo the evaluation process. We had to provide some documents and products, etc. And we were the first one to receive it, and we are very proud of it, and we think that we fully meet the requirements of this standard of GPM. And so this is our principle that we declare, this social and ecological responsibility of our company. So please stick to the time. Well, I have finished. This is our team of certified specialists. Thank you for your attention.
Да, конечно.
Yes, this is very interesting. It's interesting to learn how you work. In Yakutia, we don't have such kind of production at all, although we have quite a lot of domestic reindeer. How many reindeer do you have in Nenets Autonomous Okrug? We have about 200,000, which is, of course, more than in Yakutia. Our livestock of reindeer is the second biggest in Russia, so we have quite a good reserve of resources. But it doesn't mean that you cannot open such production in Yakutia. You have a lot of resources in Yakutia too. So, dear friends, we were supposed to work for 2 hours, but now it's 2 hours and 12 minutes. In 50 minutes, the next session will start in this facility, a big webinar on tourism and protected areas, where I'm also working as a moderator. So unfortunately we don't have any time for discussions. I just have to thank you very much for your valuable contribution to the development of business cooperation between our regions, and I promise that in the coming months we will invite you to attend other events dedicated to this topic, to speak in more detail on some specific topics and specific projects. I think that we will organize some special purpose session. So thank you very much again, and I wish everybody success, and I invite you to follow live broadcasts of other events of our forum today and tomorrow. Thank you and goodbye, and see you later.
Thank you. Thank you for organizing.
Thank you guys. Thank you, dear friends. We will be in contact.